Starting with the Punch newspaper this morning, Kwara protesters give government 72 hours to rescue kidnapped victims. Oyo clarifies 200 Amotekun casualties, warns opposition against politicizing kidnapping. Why banditry terrorism seems difficult to deal with in Nigeria. This is coming from the defense minister's details of this headline coming up shortly. Oshiomhole renews claim over alleged missing 210 trillion naira in NMPCL. Talking Democracy Day, Imo PDP accuses Uzodinma of undermining rule of law, separation of power. And on business news, investors lose 73 billion naira as Nigerian stock market slumps into Democracy Day all again. Still talking business, talking Democracy Day, solar energy deployment, expanding electricity access in Nigeria. This is according to Tinubu. These and many more headlines we have this morning. Now to the bodies of the stories. Stay tuned. This is Bars 99.3 FM. Starting with the Punch newspaper this morning, Oyo clarifies 200 Amotekun casualty, warns opposition against politicizing kidnapping. The Oyo State Commissioner for Information, Prince Dotun Oyelade, has warned opposition politicians against politicizing the recent kidnapping incident in Owerri local government area of the state. Oyelade gave the warning in a statement issued yesterday in Ibadan, while reacting to claims linking casualties in the Amotekun port to the Owerri incident. Oyelade clarified that Governor Seyi Makinde, in a show of transparency, recently disclosed that 200 personnel of the Oyo State Security Network Amotekun port had died since its inception 6 years ago. According to him, opposition element distorted the governor's statement to create false impression that the deaths were connected to the recent kidnapping in Owerri. Back to the headline this morning, Oyo clarifies 200 Amotekun casualties, warns opposition against politicizing kidnapping. Kwara protesters gave government 72 hours to rescue kidnapped victims. Members of the Take It Back movement at yesterday staged a peaceful protest in Ilorin, the Kwara State capital, demanding the immediate rescue of residents adopted across various communities of the state and issuing a 72-hour ultimatum to the government to secure their release. The protesters who converged at Tanke Junction around 7 a.m. marched through major roads in the metropolis before terminating the demonstration at the government house along Bamidupe Kolawole. The protest comes amidst growing concern over rising cases of kidnapping, violent attack in part of the state, particularly in Edu, Pasiki, Ifelojo, and several communities in Kwara South, where residents have repeatedly raised alarm over insecurity. Addressing the demonstrators at the government house, the Kwara State coordinator of the Take It Back movement, Seijo Saraki, said insecurity has made the Democracy Day celebration meaningless for many families whose loved ones remain in captivity. Saraki also alleged that some individuals attempted to disrupt the protest but maintained that the group would not be deterred from pursuing its demands. The headline to that story says Kwara protesters give government 72 hours to rescue kidnapped victims. Why banditry terrorism seems difficult to deal with in Nigeria, says Defense Minister. Minister of Defense General Christopher Musa retired has explained why terrorism, banditry, and other forms of insecurity in Nigeria appears difficult to address. The former Chief of Defense Staff made the remark yesterday while speaking on a June 12th edition of the platform organized by a television. He said persistence of insecurity is partly due to the support criminal group received from individuals within the community. Speaking on the issue, Musa said banditry, insurgency, terrorism. Why does this seem difficult to deal with it? Perhaps we have people that also encouraging and supporting these things from happening, because these terrorists are getting. There are several stories about people who are aided them in giving them food, giving them water, giving them information. These are the things that keep them going, and we call this the obstacle. Who is following them? Who are those giving them information? Who are those giving them logistics and that keep them going? The minister's remark came amidst ongoing security operations and public frustration over persistent attack. It's a well-detailed one coming from the Punch newspaper this morning. Why banditry terrorism seems difficult to deal with in Nigeria. This is according to the Defense Minister. Oshiomhole renews claim over alleged Mason 210 billion naira in NNPCL. Senator Adams Oshiomhole, representing the Edo North Senatorial District, has expressed concern over the proposed missing of hundreds of trillions of naira within the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, stating that democracy without accountability is a hollow exercise. Oshiomhole, who was a guest speaker during the June 12th lecture held in Akure, the Ondo State capital, described as mind-boggling financial transaction that vanished without trace between 2017 and 2022, with the lecture themed June 12 and beyond, reflecting on the progress of democracy and security concern. The former national chairman of the All Progressive Congress revealed that his committee had uncovered 210 trillion naira in unaccounted funds, requiring explanation from the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. Oshiomhole, who chairs the Senate Committee on Public Accounts, revealed that his committee had invited the concerned NNPCL official on several occasions to explain issues raised in the audited financial report, but repeatedly failed to appear despite series of invitations. Oshiomhole renews claim over alleged Mason 210 trillion naira in NNPCL. Away from there, talking politics, 2027, we are focused on taking Aso Rock. NDC dismisses crisis reports. The Nigerian Democratic Congress, NDC, has said it is focused on taking over Aso Rock in 2027. The party made the assertion in a statement posted on social media handle yesterday. The party said the statement insisted that there is no crisis in the party as widely reported. This is coming after the national leader of the party, Sergei Dixon, yesterday held a closed-door meeting with the presidential candidate, Peter Obi. Speaking on the meeting with Obi, Dixon said they reviewed activities of the party and discussed recent issues that have been a source of concern to all sides. He said all issues were amicably resolved, and according to him, the party members will continue to consult and engage with one another to address and resolve all concern and strengthen their unity. We are focused on taking Aso Rock. NDC dismisses crisis report. Still talking politics, Obedient General Azomchini warns Nigerians against blind support for any presidential candidates. Political strategist and former supporter of Peter Obi's presidential project, Ikenna Azomchini, has warned Nigerians against supporting any presidential candidate has decided to reassess his partisan loyalty ahead of the next electoral cycle. The coordinator of the Obedient movement explained that even though he had parted ways with Peter Obi, he would not support any kind of vocal criticism associated with actor-turned-politician Kenneth Okonkwo. He also hinted that the Obedient movement would work for the re-election of President Bola Tinubu, while stating that he would be happy to see his former principal, Peter Obi, contribute ideas on how Nigeria can be great again. Obedient General wants Nigerians against blind support for any presidential candidate. Ondo electoral officers undergo training ahead of senatorial by-election. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Resident Electoral Commissioner for Ondo State, Dr. Musiwa Buki, has urged participants designated for the forthcoming Ondo South Senatorial District by-election to uphold professionalism and integrity in the discharge of the electoral responsibility. Dr. Abuki gave the charge during the commencement of training yesterday for INEC electoral officers as preparation intensified for the 20th of June poll. The training program for presiding officers and assistant presiding officers began at various designated centers across the local government area of the senatorial districts, according to the Independent National Electoral Commission. Dr. Abuki, accompanied by the Administrative Secretary, Adenike Tadishi, visited some of the training centers to assess the exercise and monitor participant level of preparedness. He charged the officers to remain committed to excellence and ensure strict adherence to electoral guidelines throughout the conduct of the by-election. Ondo electoral officers undergo training ahead of senatorial by-election. Moving on to the Vanguard newspaper, South Africa to charge federal government for costs of deporting Nigerians. South Africa has announced plans to begin charging foreign governments, including Nigeria, for the cost of deporting the citizens who violate the country immigration laws. The decision came as South African government intensify efforts to tackle illegal migration amidst growing anti-immigration sentiments in the country. According to reports by Newsland, the policy was disclosed by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation. The department said the government would seek to recover expenses incurred in detaining and deporting undocumented foreign nationals. South African authorities said more than 100,000 undocumented migrants have been deported in the last 2 years, placing a heavy financial burden on the government. Very well detailed coming from the Vanguard newspaper. In case you're interested, the headline to that story says South Africans charge federal government for cost of deporting Nigerians. Talking June 12th, Gabon-led SDP praised tribute to Abiola's sixth credible election. The Shehu Gabon-led leadership of the Social Democratic Party has paid tribute to the late Chief Moshood Hashimawo Olawale Abiola, winner of the annulled June 12, 1993 presidential election, while calling for credible elections and stronger democratic institutions in Nigeria. The party made the call in Democracy Day statement issued yesterday by its factional National Publicity Secretary, Zakari Nadabo, as Nigerians marked the 2026 Democracy Day celebration. He emphasized that the 12th of June occupies a special place in both Nigeria and the SDP history, as Abiola contested and won the 1993 presidential election on the platform of the party. Nadabo also honored the pro-democracy activists, civil society groups, journalists, and ordinary Nigerians whose contribution helped restore democratic governance after after years of military rule. He said, and I quote, "We pay tribute to the courage, sacrifice, and patriotism of late Chief MKO Abiola and all heroes of democracy who stood firm in defense of democratic ideals during one of the most challenging periods in Nigeria's political history." Talking June 12, Gawat-led SDP pays tribute to Abiola's sixth credible election. Talking business news, investor loses 73 billion naira as Nigerian stock market slumps into Democracy Day holiday. Investors are said to have lost 73 billion naira after Thursday's trading on the Nigerian stock market to end the week on a bearish note as the nation marks Democracy Day. Data from NGX showed that the market capitalization declined by 0.05%, closing at 156.969 trillion naira, down from 157.42 trillion naira recorded in the previous session. The all-share index also shed 133.47 points, or 0.5%, closing at 244,728 naira compared to 244,852.21 reported previously. The market year-to-date return weakened to 57.27%, while market Brent closed flat with 32 gainers and 32 losers. On the losers chart, international energy insurance led, dropping 10% close to 7.11 naira per share. May and Baker, amongst others, also recorded a decline. Talking business this morning, investor loses 73 billion naira as Nigerian stock market slumps into Democracy Day holiday. Still talking business, Nigeria record highest crude production, exceed OPEC's quota. Nigeria has recorded its highest crude oil production in 11 months, hitting 1.70 million barrels per day in May 2026, according to data released recently by the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission. The country's crude oil production for May surpassed the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Companies, OPEC quota of 1.5 million barrels per day. During the review period, production performance remained robust, with combined crude oil and condensate output ranging between a low of 1.51 million barrels per day and a peak of 1.86 million barrels per day. Still talking business, Nigeria records highest crude production, exceed OPEC's quota. Another business report here says Democracy Day, solar energy deployment expanded electricity access in Nigeria, says Tinubu. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has said ongoing efforts to address Nigerians' electricity challenges are beginning to yield positive results, particularly through the Rural Electrification Agency upgrade solar energy project targeted at undeserved communities across the country. The President made the disclosure in his Democracy Day message yesterday, highlighting key reforms aimed at transforming the nation's power sector. Tinubu noted that the implementation of Electricity Act, which decentralized the electricity sector, would help address long-standing challenges facing power supply in Nigeria. He also said that the Presidential Power Sector Task Force is working to bridge the country's metering gap and resolve legacy debts in the sector, estimated at over 4 trillion naira. Talking business this morning, solar energy deployment expanded electricity access in Nigeria, says the President. Still talking Democracy Day, Imo PDP accuses Uzodima of undermining rule of law, separation of power. As Nigeria marked its 27th Democracy Day celebration, the People Democratic Party, Imo State Chapter, has accused the administration of Governor Uzodima of undermining the rule of law and neglecting democratic principles, including the separation of powers. The party further accused the administration of eroding public confidence in governance through its style of administration. In a press statement issued through the office of its spokesperson, Lancelot Obiako, the party pointed out that the separation of power and the rule of law are key elements that define true democracy. The party said Uzodima's leadership has not shown enough commitment to offer Imo people what true democracy looks like. Certain incidents of what it described as the arbitrary use of force and power, lack of accountability in the management of public funds, disrespect for the rule of law, and corruption, insecurity being the order of the day over the last 6 years. Talking Democracy Day, Imo PDP accuses Uzodima of undermining rule of law, separation of power. Insecurity, lack of play undermining children's cognitive learning in Nigerian schools. That's according to UNICEF. The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has expressed concern that insecurity and a lack of adequate play opportunities in school are negatively affecting the cognitive development and learning outcomes of children across Nigeria. Newsful reports that UNICEF warned that the trend could have long-term consequences for children's educational attainment and overall well-being. Selling Chief Office, UNICEF Lagos, stated in her remarks at the 2026 International Day of Play celebration and Early Childhood Education Media Dialogue and Play Day event held in Lagos. The event themed Protect Play, Protect Childhood was organized by UNICEF in collaboration with the Lagos State Universal Basic Education Board. Selling her remarks lamented that in recent months, many children have been taken into captivity from their schools in Borno, Niger, Kebbi, and Oyo State. She said some children were still in captivity and has yet to return home. Back to the headline coming from the Daily Post newspaper this morning: insecurity, lack of play, undermining children's cognitive learning in Nigerian schools. That's according to UNICEF. Esteemed listeners, this is how far we can go on the program, the dailies from Buzz 99.3 FM. Many thanks for staying tuned and for the company. My name is Bamidupe Kolawole. Good morning to you and have a wonderful weekend.